If you're only making a few portions, I think it might be easier to make fresh pasta with just a rolling pin and your counter. No pasta rolling machine to get out and assemble and clean. I'm going to show you how I do it, and then we'll make a super quick and delicious creamy mushroom sauce for it. You can mix your pasta dough in a bowl, but since we're going to get the counter dirty anyway when we roll this out, I'm going to just do everything right here. A cup of flour, 120 grams to start with, and 1 egg per portion is a good rule of thumb. I'm making 2. Carve a little well in the center of the flour pile and crack them in. To me, the biggest reason to make my own pasta is to make egg pasta. Fresh egg pasta is a totally different taste and texture from anything else, and it's so good. Half a teaspoon of Morton Kosher. I increasingly think fresh pasta comes out better if you season the dough directly, at least a little bit, rather than just relying on the salty boil water. With my fork, I'll get those eggs beaten and mixed into the flour as much as possible before I have no choice but to get in with my hands. Knead and knead and knead. It always feels like it's never going to come together until it does. Keep the faith. Once it is together, but it becomes too sticky to work, I'll dust on more flour. With pasta, you generally just knead in however much flour the dough can take. And my basic technique is to gather up my dough, put my palm on the ball, and then lean into it with my body weight. Gather the dough back up into a ball and repeat. Very physically efficient. Requires hardly any strength because your weight and gravity are providing the force. After a good 8 minutes of kneading, my dough is pretty smooth and elastic, it's hardly sticky at all anymore, and it's therefore not taking much more flour. We're pretty much done. I am using the dough as a broom of sorts to grab up any flakes of dough that are stuck to the counter. If we don't get those off, they'll dry and then flake off and stick to the dough later as we roll it out here, and they won't fully rehydrate, so then they'll just mess up the texture. Just use the dough to scrub the counter clean. There we go, barely sticky. That'll be easy to roll out by hand, but you still want to cover it with a damp towel or something and let it rest at least 15 minutes or so. It rolls out easier after it rests a bit. While we wait, we can prep everything else. I'll peel and chop a few garlic cloves. You can't beat the combination of garlic and mushrooms. I've got a pint of cremini mushrooms. That's 4 ounces, 113 grams. Just about any mushroom variety would be fine. I'll trim any particularly woody stem ends off and then slice. No need to get them paper thin. They'll shrink a lot when they cook, and I like them to have some texture. Now we'll need a little pot of water for boiling. I'll give that a pinch of salt too, just to cover my bases. Heat on high. And for the mushroom sauce, I'll use my high-carbon steel pan from the sponsor of this video, Misen. Let me thank them real quick. Misen makes shockingly robust cookware given their entry-level prices. Every pan I have from them is way more solid and hefty than any comparably priced stuff that I've handled. This is how my carbon steel pan arrived. I just melted off the packing wax, and then you season the pan just like cast iron. Unlike other oils, this seasoning wax that comes with the pan actually smells good as you polymerize it into a naturally non-stick coating. Just follow the directions. High carbon steel holds on to that seasoning much in the same way cast iron does, but you also get the superior thermal conductivity of steel. It heats up a lot faster and more evenly, and check out that removable rubber handle. Like medium-high heat, a good coating of olive oil, and this pan is great for mushrooms, which tend to stick to pans the same way meat does. They brown great in that Misen pan. Hit my link in the description, use promo code Ragusia, and get yourself 20% off your first order from Misen on this pan or anything. Use my link, enter code Ragusia at checkout, save 20%. Thank you, Misen. Now, this could be enough mushrooms for 2 portions, but I like a lot of mushrooms, and I like to cook them down a lot to concentrate their flavor. So I'm going to put in another pint. This one is pre-sliced. That's fine as long as they're fresh. Hey, there's some yellow oyster mushrooms in there too. I'll just stir continuously, at least for the early phase, until I've built some brown crust on these and a lot of water starts to come out. Once the pan is water wet like that, it's safe to let them go unattended for a moment while we get our pasta ready. Big handful of flour to keep it from sticking as we roll, and roll we shall. Basically, I do this the same way I do pastry. Roll a little and then turn it. Roll, turn. Turning it or even flipping it helps you make sure that every surface is getting a fresh dusting of flour and nothing is sticking. Plus, turning helps you roll more evenly in all directions. You can be much rougher with this than you are with pastry, though. Don't be delicate. Really dig in there with the corner of the pin. I'll pause to stir my mushrooms, and if you feel like they're getting out ahead of you, just take the pan off the heat. Mushrooms can wait a long time without anything bad happening to them. You may be wondering, without a rolling machine, how do I roll it to even thickness? How do I know how thin to make it? Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about that because it's nearly impossible to get this very, very thin with a rolling pin. You just get all of it as thin as you physically can, and everything will be pretty even, and it definitely won't be too thin. The bad news is your noodles are probably probably going to be a little thick, a little rustic, but if we play our cards right, they'll be satisfyingly thick. Thick with 2 C's. I'll make sure that's well floured and not sticky before I fold it up a few times and throw it on a cutting board. I find a sawing motion works better than straight downward pressure. If you just push down, it tends to crush the layers together more and make them stick to each other. I'm going for a tagliatelle type width on these, keeping in mind they're going to swell like 50% when they cook. Once cut, you either need to drape them over something like a drying rack where they can hold for a while without sticking to each other, or you can just toss them around in a little flour to get them unraveled and then cook them within a few minutes. Once they're in a pile like that, you're committed and you got to cook them soon before they stick. This is why I got my mushrooms going in advance. They're back on the heat now and looking cooked, so I'll throw in my garlic and let it just barely cook for a minute before deglazing with fine Scotch whiskey. Might sound weird, but I think barrel-aged spirits go amazingly well with mushrooms and or cream, even with otherwise Italian flavors. Sometimes I use brandy, sometimes I use bourbon. You could totally deglaze with a splash of water instead. This just gives the sauce some extra depth. Then just enough cream to cover the mushrooms. Once that's in, the timing should work out perfect if we drop the pasta now. Give it a stir and make sure the noodles aren't sticking to the pan or to each other. Fresh pasta cooks in like 2 minutes. Stir that simmering cream meanwhile and give it a conservative seasoning. We can add more salt at the end to taste. And just when the pasta seems to have swollen a bit and go noticeably more buoyant, it's done. If anything, I want to undercook this a bit before it goes in the sauce. And pasta water is the other main component of the sauce. You could catch some in a cup as you drain. I'm simply going to not drain this very thoroughly and have faith that the proportions are going to work out. There's tons of wiggle room here. Toss that around, get everything combined. I think it's going to need more moisture. That sauce texture might look perfect now, but it's going to thicken a ton by the time it cools on the plate and we actually start eating. I'm going to loosen it with some more scotch, but water would be fine. More cream would do it too, as long as it doesn't get cooked very much. You could finish now with some fresh herb. Tarragon would go with these flavors. Parsley would be nice. But today I'm going to do an alternative to finishing with herbs. I'm going to dump in a really big handful of arugula. Any delicate salad green that you have left over in the fridge could work. Watercress, baby spinach, and it will fit in 2 seconds if you can just get it worked into the pan a little. It will wilt down almost instantly. Finishing pasta with tender greens gets you the vibrant color and freshness without all of the powerful aromas of herbs. If you want the other flavors in your dish to ring clear, this works great. I want to taste the mushrooms and the whiskey today. Taste for salt content, add more if you need it, and you're done. Look at how much that sauce has tightened in just the last few seconds. I could have put in even more moisture. Because these are rough hand-rolled noodles, their texture is on the verge of dumpling consistency, but I love that, and it works great with the mushrooms. The whole dish is satisfyingly toothsome. Not something you want to eat every day, this heap of carbs and dairy fat and booze. I'm going to have some regrets later, but at the moment, I'm a happy man.